My name is Rocco Jarman. I'm the founder of Eyes Wide Open Life. If you've been wanting to get a bit of understanding about what exactly the Mojo Dojo is, you're in the right place. This is probably a really good place to start. This will be about a 35-minute video explaining everything that we're doing, why it exists, where the idea came from, the kind of formats of the classes moving forward, how you can participate, what the logistics will be, the costs, the timing, the size of the classes, how you get involved, and direction to the website where you can follow any further information that you're looking for. So I started Eyes Wide Open Life as a .org because I always intended this to be something that isn't about making money but about helping people. I really believe in that, and the reason I believe in it is because I went through my own quite profound healing and awakening journey. About 4 years ago now, somewhere between then, I was very much at war with myself. I was living a life that I didn't want to be in many respects. I was 12 years into a relationship that I don't believe I belonged in. I wasn't a very good version of myself as a husband or a father, and I absolutely hated my job. I had lost integrity with myself. I was out of integrity with myself. I wasn't living life in alignment with my own authenticity. And it started manifesting in lots of ways, the typical ways. So behavior addictions like scrolling and binge watching, avoiding making the changes I needed to make. No mindfulness practices, no mindful eating. I was eating very unhealthily. I was self-medicating with alcohol. And as happens to so many people, we hit these age milestones where suddenly something in our wiring changes and we suddenly become very galvanized around the project of our own wellness and our own self-love. So I had a dysfunctional childhood, this complicated family life, absolutely poor self-esteem and some severe anger issues. And I was languishing under depression. I had a sense of meaninglessness about my life, and drudgery every day was exactly the same. And moreover, I had the sense that I was broken and incomplete in myself, and I had to come up with these answers how. And the biggest pain for me was, even though I changed gears at some point in time, and I went in very earnest search of what the solutions or answers might be, I discovered that the internet was, and it wasn't just the internet, there was everywhere you looked, there was a glut of retreats, courses, breathwork, yoga, cacao ceremonies, ayahuasca ceremonies, different kinds of bro mentoring, life coaching. And I looked seriously. I went in with a very, very open mind because I wanted to be truly well. I really, really wanted to solve the case. I wanted to find a path, find a method or set of practices, and I wanted to apply myself. And the honest truth is, every single person I encountered and every single system, every single teacher, they were all full of shit. There was either a hole in their game where, I could see a delta between what they were teaching and how they were showing up, or there were whole gaps and holes that required me to either create leaps of faith or to plug the holes in understanding with faith or with the comparison I give is Aikido. Aikido is not a functional martial art. Somebody who's been training Aikido for several years can go against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu kid that's been training for 8 months, and without fail, the kid who's been practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 8 months, let's assume that the two combatants are of similar size and strength, will absolutely clean the floor with the Aikido player, and that's a fact. Why is this the case? Mostly because Aikido requires a lot of motherhood statements and a lot of you can't challenge the teacher. You just have to accept what's said, and people start buying into the bullshit. And there is a bit of that everywhere. A lot of our traditional systems of religion, of philosophy and ideology, there's a lot of hero worship tied to it. There's a lot of dogma in it, and nothing is quite a complete game. And if any of these things were a complete game, this video wouldn't exist. I would have found one of those methods and applied myself and followed it through. But the problem was, even though I was searching earnestly, I couldn't find anything. There was always some sort of problem. It was either too slow, or it was slightly intellectually dishonest, or it was some form of spiritual junk food, or it was some form of pseudoscience, or it was way too complex and way too narrow, like the focus of a single book or the focus of a single podcast. So I began a journey of devouring all this content, and because I'm neurodivergent, neurodivergence is the circumstance where you don't pause and process communication and engagement and cognition in exactly the same way that the majority of the population do. Autism, for example, is a form of neurodivergence. I don't know exactly what the name might be attached to what I have, but for whatever it is, it allows me to see the world in a slightly different way. It allows me to take a very divergent view across a great many subjects, break these things down, break down the traditional silos that they want, that they get packaged in, and start seeing the relationships and the patterns and the interdependence between these bits of information and insight. And taking exactly that, I started being able to thread the needle between what was ostensibly a spiritual practice and suggestions, as well as facts about our human psychology, about mental health, about neurobiology, about behavioral science, about the work of Jung, right through to the work of Joseph Campbell. And I started taking all of these pieces and weaving them together into a cohesive method of psychological self-repair. My own life is a testament to the fact that that absolutely works. So I've completely turned my life around. I'm now living in a conscious relationship. We've had a daughter together. My wife and I am remarried. I absolutely love my job, and I started the Eyes Wide Open Life, which includes the YouTube channel, the podcast, several online courses, and I've been doing client work for the last 2 years of my life. So at this stage, I've probably helped about 30, 40 people, deep one-on-one sessions. And what eventually became apparent to me is that even though I have massive talent and ability to be able to help these people one-on-one, the time cost for myself and them can be quite prohibitive, because I still need to make it worth my while. And therefore the money cost can be quite prohibitive as well. And even though these deep dives and this intense one-on-one work actually yields great results up front, it's not the best modality for ongoing maintenance. So what I would do from time to time is I would run courses, I would run programs, and for various reasons the engagement either fizzles out or peters out. The transmission is a lot too complex to pick up all in one go. And my wife eventually, the lovely Dimpna, she eventually pointed out to me, this is not the way you would learn anything else that's complex. For example, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You would go to a dojo, you would submit yourself to the cyclic lessons, and you would let somebody else guide the building blocks and how they get transmitted to you over a series of weeks, till eventually you've covered a lot of ground, and you can maybe even come back to a similar place that you started several weeks down the track, but you now actually have some context to start stitching together so that you can integrate that into your own game. And that's how you slowly develop and improve over time. And that's where the idea of the Mojo Dojo came from. All these bits of insights, these concepts, these practices, this adjustment to language, these gambits and games and approaches of psychological self-repair, they are hugely effective. But the problem is, for someone like you who wants to embrace this philosophy or these practices and try and apply them in your life, you're not an expert yet. Everything's hard in the beginning, and if the barrier to entry is so complex, or you're expected to go to a seminar or a course and then just get one big download and then try and integrate that into the rest of your life and the rest of your game, the barrier to entry is too high. And secondly, even if there is very clear transmission between us and I am able to help you with some core things, the nature of a human life is such that even though we've got the best tools in the game, in the moment, having the presence of mind and the insight as to which tools and which practices to apply in which moment, we don't always have that awareness. So the reason people go to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu dojo, for example, is so that just through showing up and just through submitting yourself to the practices and the lessons, eventually, just like our bodies develop a muscle memory, eventually these things start landing and integrating. So I'm going to take you through the presentation that we've been sharing with some folks. We had 3 information sessions in December of 22, and this is basically what the gist of it was. I won't do the introduction. I'll just kick straight onto the 2 people that are going to be running it, which is my lovely wife. Yes, she is with our baby Maya. The focus that my wife will be focusing on in these contributions and in these lessons, etc., will be based on her experience in the Agile modality. Agile is the way the corporate world has evolved in the last 15 years to develop and deliver against highly complex projects, but without this old-fashioned traditional model of doing all the analysis and planning up front, and then doing all the doing and the executing over a long period of time, and then delivering a result at the end and realizing that the result doesn't match to the expectation. Something was lost in the mix. Whereas Agile is this way of frequently testing and checking early on and enabling yourself to make rapid pivots, to be physically and mentally and psychologically agile, so that you can learn as you go and include the lessons learned that you're picking up along the way and roll them into your plans. One of the obvious insights here is that full potential cannot be known by the ambitious man. Somebody that sets off with a very, very clear plan early on in their life or early on in a project, this is from a place of ignorance and naivety before you've actually encountered the reality of what is going to set you back and what is going to cause you a challenge. And we obviously also get changed along the way as we walk the way. Any project that we embroil in, any relationship that we submit ourselves to, any great change in our life that we embark on, we will be changed along the way. And it's actually not prudent to make a single assessment of what our ambitions or goals are going to be from here. We literally need to keep changing tack as we progress along the road, and that's what Agile brings along to the party. In addition, my wife will be focusing on the woman's perspective, which will include honoring the cycles and entrainment. And one of the applications of that is knowing your own cycle. So either if you're a woman or if you're in relationship with a woman, it is going to pay, and we can teach you the prudence of it, of tracking that, knowing where you are against the lunar cycles, and how that may or may not affect mental health. So the area I'm going to be focusing on mostly is there's this broad umbrella of our biology and our psychology, and obviously our sense of self and our relationship with ourself, and the feelings and the sensations that we have to manage on a daily basis are very much, including our mood and our vitality and our sense of presence, our stillness, etc. These are all driven at the end of the day by science, the biology of our bodies, our neurochemistry, the chemistry of motivation and reward, of depression. And then we have the rich aspects of our psychology, which we don't really get given the tools to either understand, grasp, or start mastering. And that includes our behavioral science as a social animal, how we develop stories and predictive models to make quick and rapid decisions and to accept ideas that are larger than we can contain. but also these very, very personal aspects of inner child healing, shadow integration, etc. And all of this is under the rubric of psychological self-repair. A big focal point for me, obviously, and all of this work requires centricity around self-ownership, actualization, and leadership. This is this idea of us, of no one else is coming, us being responsible for the way we shape and steer the course of our lives. The self-love that we're able to apply, the courage we're able to apply in the moment in facing discomfort, and this elusive goal that doesn't need to be elusive, it can actually become quite tangible, of connecting with purpose. So everybody, if you're a normal human being, wants to know what's in it for me. At the end of the day, what we're all trying to do is get to the end of a day, a week, a month, a year, even possibly a relationship, possibly a big phase of our lives. We're trying to get to the end of it with absolutely minimal regret. Some regrets are inevitable, because no regret is avoidable altogether. But what we want is, we want the self-belief that we are capable of making this journey of transformation, of actually repairing our lives and our relationships with ourselves. We want the certainty to know that the things that we're choosing to do are actually going to yield the correct results, and we are more or less heading in the right direction. And we want the motivation to keep applying ourselves to this path or this journey, even when it becomes, especially when it becomes difficult. And as the writing there says, nothing breeds motivation and self-belief like results. I don't often put cartoons and jokes and that sort of crap in my presentations, but this is actually quite poignant. There's a little diagram over here of a husband, obviously embroiled in a home improvement project, and the text below it is the punchline, where the wife asks the husband, at what point does the improvement phase of the improvement project begin? And we all live with that reality, actually. The scenario I want to discuss here is called the house always under construction. I might make this a bit smaller and see if we can get this out the way. There is a balance we're expected to strike and arrive at, which is about, there's different metaphors for it. One of them is building the ship while you're still busy sailing it. And not just doing those two things, but often navigating very, very rough seas or storms, metaphorically speaking, or the opposite, doldrums. These are these latitudes where there's no wind. And what that infers is that there are moments along our journey, sometimes protracted moments, where we're struggling, looking for a way forward, and the outside inspiration or the motivation or this missing piece that we already don't have inside of us doesn't seem to be coming from the outside, and all we have is our own tenacity and our own self-belief, our own certainty and our own motivation. And that's exactly what is lacking at times like that. The metaphor I've chosen to stick with is this house always under construction. So if we liken the project of our lives, of our ambitions to psychologically self-repair, become well, process inner child wounds, integrate shadow, run more conscious relationships, be fitter, be healthier, have a better success around time management, focus on our spirituality and mindfulness. There's a whole cloud or constellation of things which are all vying for our three budgets that we have: time, energy, and attention. And with a finite amount of time, energy, and attention, we are expected, and we expect ourselves, to manage our mental health, manage our time, drive forward in our spirituality and mindfulness, live and practice connected relationships, manage our diet and nutrition, our flexibility, not just yoga and stretching, but also our psychological flexibility for change and for adversity, our fitness, again, physically and psychologically, and then the self-leadership and the leadership that we need to show to self, and in the context of our jobs as parents, as partners, as friends, etc. And then all of them are tapping into these three. They're not even budgets, they're just these properties or capacities which we are expected to find inside of ourselves, which is motivation, certainty, and self-belief. The problem is, the reason we end up with a house always under construction is until you are living an examined life and until you're embroiled in practices which start actually solving some of these overhanging problems and challenges, we feel a sense of discomfort, and then we reach out for a method. It might be a breathwork methodology or a new self-help book or a podcast or a new coach or something. And we start trying to work on this one thing. But usually, being humans, we hit blockers. We hit things that either sap at our motivation, our certainty, or our self-belief, or we don't strike this balance between time, energy, and attention well, and something goes south. And as soon as it goes south, we drop our practices and we resort to the level of our preparation, not the level of our intentions. When that happens, we're on our own, and the sense of discomfort rises again. And then, unbeknownst to ourselves, we're on the scout out or the lookout for the next thing, which is going to change our attitudes or change ourselves or change our prospects. And so it's a little bit like having a home where you start renovating the kitchen and then you get blocked. And then the kitchen's sort of in a state of half completion. It's still usable, but it's not quite finished. And then you get stuck here, so then you move on to the next project. You start renovating the lounge, or you start building a deck, or you start building relaying the paving for the driveway. Whatever it is, none of these things ever get complete. And so eventually you've got this sprawling house, which is always under construction. And the irony is, walking into a work in progress where there's actually not order and you don't know how you're going to finish these projects, guilt rises, shame rises, discomfort rises, and you invariably go and reach for the next thing and start the next gambit or the next project. And this is exactly what this dojo aims to remedy. The other little concept here is the one of ideal self. We make all these assertions, especially at this time of New Year. We're all full of piss and vinegar. We're sitting with this mountain of regret and frustration. The year didn't go exactly the way we wanted it to. There was a mountain of things we wanted to achieve. There was a mountain of adversity we had to climb. We weren't always the best versions of ourselves. We didn't always show up for the people that matter in our lives. And now we're sitting with this sense of remorse and regret. And obviously we want to make sure that the next year it has a different set of outcomes to the one we're having at the moment. So we lean in and we make all these assertions about joining gyms and changing our diets and giving up drinking and meditating more and going, dealing with the anger management that we need to do, whatever that might be. But the one that makes all these threats and promises to ourselves that we will end up having to break is our ideal self. Now, ideal self is the one that drafts the dating profile or the resume. We put a version of ourselves on that sheet of paper. That's not to say that we're lying. We're not being dishonest. This is actually the version of ourselves we would want to be if everything was manageable and we had control and mastery over the outside world as well as our inner world. But of course we don't. Because as soon as adversity or opportunity arrive, this is in a relationship or in a job where you start noticing that the version of the person that showed up on the first date or on the interview, etc., there's a bit of daylight that starts showing between the version that's able to show up on the day versus the way that they portrayed themselves. Again, we're not dishonest when there's a delta between the two. We have this concept or this aspect of ourselves called ideal self, the version of us that we want to align with. But there is always this distance between that version and how we're able to show up on the day. And it's the ideal self that creates these goals and ambitions for the future that we might not even truly ever even believe in. They're the ones that make the social plans that we have to renege on when our energy is depleted. And they're the ones that make commitments, either to ourselves in the form of promises or to other people that we hold ourselves to in the context of pleasing and martyring. The Mojo Dojo is the way to merge and align this idea of ideal self with our everyday self so that those two can be more in alignment. Now, when I say it's the way, there are no right or only ways. There are no right or only ways to do anything, but there definitely have to be better and worse ways. And the Mojo Dojo is all about finding and implementing the better ways. So what you can expect if you sign up is there is a lot of work that I've been delivering to literally over, I think the number's probably about 160 people at this point in time. And so these products and these insights have been tested in prod, basically. They have been used in anger by people that are trying to improve aspects of their lives. This Accepting Your Nature is a very intense course on psychological self-repair, self-awareness, and self-mastery. The minimum length is 6 weeks, and it takes 6 times 90-minute sessions just to transmit the basic information before you roll in any of the practices or the integration. Relationship formula is a bit quicker, and it's a similar set of understandings, but tailored to individuals or couples that are trying to apply all of that in the context of a conscious relationship and a few other practices, insights, and concepts that relate specifically to the maintenance and management of a conscious relationship. And then probably one of the most successful things we ran last year was a thing called the Alchemy Program. It was a program we ran over 6 months, which was aimed at guiding people through a process of making space, physically, psychologically, digitally, how to invest those 3 budgets of time, energy, and attention, how to honor the cycles, how to overcome story so that we are more in alignment with the way the world actually is, and how to receive more to give more in order to finally live our purpose. So this was a very comprehensive 6-month life mastery program. The thing is, all of these had delivery challenges. People lose engagement over time. It's hard to sustain something over a long period of time. With the Accepting Your Nature course, it was quite hard to transmit so much content, and it's not simple stuff. We are complex human beings with complex psychologies, and there's lots of moving parts, and it's not trivial to transmit that over the medium of a Zoom call. And the content and the value is unquestionable, but the delivery mechanism is the part that needed to change. And so what we've taken is all the best of all of this, plus all the learnings and all the self-study that I've done in all the domains of neuroscience, psychology, behavioral science, psychological self-repair, inner child healing, conscious relationships, life mastery, leadership, all of these things distilled into an ongoing program, the Mojo Dojo, that is never going to end. These are the areas that we'll be focusing on. So agile living, how to take these lessons from corporate agile project delivery and imbue them into everyday life in simple, effective, and sustainable ways. We're going to be teaching effective mindfulness practices. A lot of people meditate but don't know. They think they're meditating, but they're usually just sitting there thinking with their eyes closed. The Accepting Your Nature course, I think all of the content from that is going to be coming through, as well as the conscious relationship stuff. We're going to be cycling around and around on this concept of pursuing purpose through the medium of integrity and authenticity, self-leadership. And a big part of what we're teaching will be emotional competency. And obviously all of this takes leadership of self and in the context of the relationships that matter to us. The lesson plans will look roughly like this. Every 4 weeks, the cycle will change. There will be a central theme for the lunar month, so for 28 days. And each of these in the wheel represent, so for example, new moon is the winter, the first quarter of the moon is spring, the full moon will be high summer, and then the waning moon will be autumn. And we will align this lesson wheel, and this will refresh every 28 days. But a single theme will be retained over the period of a month. So all the lessons that you come to over that month will actually work and build on each other. And then eventually, in a very long arc, we'll cycle around on everything in a deepening, widening spiral. So we'll cover the same concepts, again, sometimes from different angles at different depths with different perspectives. But roughly what you can expect is a 90-minute session, which is broken up into an introduction and a welcome. We're going to do some grounding and coming into space so that everybody gets the opportunity to clear their cache and really optimize the transmission and engagement for that 90 minutes. There'll be a lesson. There'll be homework and practices which we'll give people. Again, what you put in is what you're going to get out. And there'll be opportunities to refresh any questions from this session or from previous sessions that anyone can ask at the end of the class. And what I'll do from time to time, depending on the tempo and the mood in the room, I'll kick on for another 15 minutes to have any additional post-class questions, or if anybody wants any sort of private coaching for a few minutes, just tips and tricks to tighten up their game. The core principles, why I'm raising this here now, because this is going to become absolutely central to all of the lessons and all the engagement and all the content, is that what I'm going to do is, if anybody joins in the first, let's call it the first 3 months, I'll hold your money in trust. And if you commit to these core principles and you don't get profound results in your life, or you don't start seeing where this is going, I'll give you your money back on condition that you commit to these 5 things. So I will teach you what consent means and how to practice self-ownership in the context of this. I will teach you vulnerability and how to apply it, what that means in the context of this. If you are prepared to practice radical self-honesty and vulnerability, in other words, come here to do the work and come here to find reasons to solve problems, not reasons why you can't solve problems. If you apply curiosity and self-permission, and if you commit to the process, it's probably the most important one, committing to the process. You just keep showing up and you just keep doing the work. I guarantee you that you will get the results that you're looking for. And within even a short space of time, like 2 months, you will begin to notice such lasting and transformative changes in your own life. I am prepared to stake the revenue of 2 months worth of my effort on that. So, membership and logistics. The membership details. So, very important. This is a dojo, not a course. It's not a program. It's not a workshop. It is a dojo. So, just like learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you show up on the mat, you participate in the class, and you keep showing up. There's obviously going to be seasonal breaks, but the lessons will be continuous and weekly, and they'll all build on each other. The classes, I'm intending to cap them around 30, so that I'm never split too, I'm never spread too thin, to be able to give everybody a meaningful sense of engagement and a powerful lesson. What you get for membership, for subscription, is obviously attendance to the 90-minute online session. There's a weekly revision or catch-up session, which will run on an alternative day of the week. You'll get access to the website, where you'll get access to member-only resources. You'll get the newsletter, you'll get access to any previous lessons and notes, and we'll find some way of including you in a circular of daily nudges, tips, and reminders. Anybody who joins will also get discounts on one-on-one sessions with me. So even though I'm shifting towards the Mojo Dojo, I'm still going to be able to deliver one-on-one mentorship, training, consultation, whatever the case. And then you also get discounts for special events, online retreats that I run through the Eyes Wide Open Life. One of the coolest things is there's going to be a thing called a monthly retro, which is a ceremony which is part of Agile. And what that means is, once a month, Dimpna and I will sit and run, for any member who wants to come along, one group session where we discuss our keep, stop, starts. Not us individually as human beings, but us as members of a community, so that we can air our requests, our recommendations, our frustrations, our what ifs, so that if there is some consensus in the room and it actually is going to improve the dojo, we'll take all of these recommendations and keep folding them into how we run things, so that you both benefit from the improvement over time, but also get that ability to have your say, hear and be heard. And every single time we do a retro, we'll look at the commitments that we made the last month and the things that we said we wanted to keep doing, the things that we said we wanted to stop doing, and the things that we said we wanted to start doing. And the nice thing for me is I get the sense of delivering and shaping the service in a way that suits the members, and the members all get the benefit of being able to have their say and seeing things improve over time. And I don't think there's any other model in the world that works like this. So on request, we can also run one-on-one coaching and support. So personalized planning, if you want to do that, personalized retros, if you want to troubleshoot self-relationship or practices, we can jump on and have a call about that. And one of the big things for people is exploring purpose, connecting with purpose and what the blockers in their life are. In the beginning, for the inaugural membership or subscribers, there's going to be a sort of soft launch member pricing, which will be $23 per week. Now, that's intended to move up over time. This is just a beta launch soft pricing. If you want to get annual membership, you'll still get a discount. And any walled garden members will also receive a 20% discount on that as well. As I said, I will hold your money in trust for the first 2 months. And if it's demonstrated that you have applied yourself to the work and the core principles, and it doesn't work for you, I'll give you your money back. I think the only thing that remains to be said now is when the classes are going to be. So we've got these 2 time zones, these 3 time zones. I'm actually looking at putting a second separate course, or second separate class together for people in the Africa, Europe time zone. That's to be announced, and that might follow on after this. But for now, the first round of sessions will be Los Angeles time 4 to 5:30, Perth time 8 to 9:30, and Sydney time 11 to 12:30. And then the corresponding weekly revision and catch-up will be on Tuesdays, Los Angeles time 5 to 6, Perth time Wednesdays 9 to 10 in the mornings, and Sydney time Wednesdays 12 to 1 p.m. Sorry, that's a typo. All of this will be on the website, as will be all of this information, as will be these core these core principles, as well as all the other information we spoke about. So what will happen from here on out, if you are interested, is go to eyeswideopenlife.org. You will find a link there, or go to the mymojodojolife.com, mymojodojolife.com, where there will be the ability to sign up and register. And part of that registration process is going to be an application, so that we can get a little bit of information from each of you as you join, so we can tailor the service to suit your needs better. We can get to understand what your objectives are and what your biggest challenges and areas of growth that you want to prioritize. And that pretty much brings us up to speed. So I'm looking forward to hearing from anyone. If you've got any questions, info@eyeswideopenlife.org. I'll probably be talking about this on the podcast soon. Both the eyeswideopenlife.org website and the mymojodojolife.com websites will both contain ample information, and we'll post this video up on YouTube, and feel free to share it with anybody. What we'll possibly also do is we'll work out a referral program, which means for every person that you refer, we can I'll find some way of addressing the monetization, so that we refund you back a week or maybe even more. I'll work it out. But there will definitely be a referral program as well. So it's in your interest, especially if it's making change in your life, it's in your interest to send people our way. We're going to cap the capacity in the beginning at 30 people. But once that grows past that, we're just going to run different sessions. And as you'll see, this stuff really, really, really works. My life has changed, and I did a head count yesterday. Just the clients that I saw last year, there's about 16 of them. And every single one of them, every single one to the last man and woman, reports that one of the most transformational experiences of the last 10 years of their life has been working with the material that we share on Eyes Wide Open Life, and the best of that is all going to be delivered in the absolutely most effective and efficient way in the Mojo Dojo. You've got everything to gain and absolutely nothing to lose. So we're really looking forward to seeing you on the mats. Thanks. Until next time.
Tomorrow's a new day.